Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Fair Life with Andrew McKee. I am, oh right, I'm Andrew McKee. So yeah, it is. Whew, I apologize for taking last week off, but yeah, I was a bit hoarse when it came to Monday evening, and yeah, it was kind of a judgment call. I mean, I'll put it to you this way: I sounded a little bit like I sounded a little bit like this, and it was it was. I really pushed myself on Sunday because I figured, well, last day, what am I saving it for? Well, I realized I should have saved a little bit for the Monday night stream, so that was on me. But and I was pretty wiped too. So yeah, I think it was probably a smart thing because I was only about maybe 60% there. So I appreciate your patience, and I really, it's kind of worked out fairly well because I've started doing the recurring events on Facebook and setting that up where all of the shows are set up all the way through December of this year. They're already set up. If I'm going to skip one, I just go in and cancel the event as opposed to not create one. I think it's a much better way to do it. And although canceling an event is not easy in Facebook, but after a bunch of research and a few Reddit threads, I did figure it out. But it was, always an adventure. But yeah. And hey, great to see you, Kurt, and Jan, and Kevin, and Dan, and Lisa, and Janine, and Damaris, and yeah, thanks. Don't worry, you're not too late. It's all good. No, you're fine. And hey, and thank you, Dan. Thank you. Like I said, it was a process, but I'm feeling much better now. Yeah, I feel human again. That's always good. One of the things Sherwood is one of those fairs where I really give 110% for most of the day. I don't take many breaks, and it's the only fair I'm like that with. I think partly because it's a local fair, so I can kind of just go home and relax a little bit during the week. It's a little easier to do that. But yeah, I mean, other fairs, I think I still would do a lot more than most people, most performers on the road. Nothing against others, but that's always been my approach. I always feel weird to just kind of sit down and not do something at fair. It always felt counterintuitive. I mean, I've got musical instruments at a place where people might want to hear me. Why would I not do something? So I try to do that as much as I can, and as long as I'm not disturbing anyone else. I mean, that's where I draw the line. If it's not going to be entertaining for people, or I'm going to be stepping on someone else's shoes, not worth it. But otherwise, I do try. And hey, Kathy, thanks for joining. And yeah. That's true. Yeah, I mean, that's not bad, but that coupled with being hoarse, that was why I kind of took it easy. But no, I mean, what happens now is, of course, I have to give my little Sherwood report and talk about what the last 8 weekends before were like, since I couldn't do it last weekend. So, oh, good. And Alicia joined. I was beginning to wonder because I just talked to her before I started streaming. So I was like, where is she? But no, it happens. No, it's one of those things when you're, not at home and you're on the road like Alicia is. Alicia, where are you again? Where? Yes, that's right. At Scarborough Renaissance Festival. Yeah, they're trying hard not to call it Scarborough Fair anymore because, well, that just destroys all online web searches. If you try to search for Scarborough Fair, you're going to get lots of other pages. So the Scarborough Renaissance Festival. I'm sorry. They made that bed when they created the fair. That's their own fault. But of course, it was created long before the World Wide Web. So I guess I can't blame them too harshly. And yes. And thank you. That is a very, very good point. Always a very good point. Yes. Do like and share. Always appreciate it. Yeah, actually, I should probably put up that old graphic that I never use anymore, right? Let's see if I can. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, woohoo! Like and subscribe. Yeah. Yeah. I always forget to do that. So thank you, Alicia. That's why. Well, one of the many reasons why you're here. Woo. So yeah. Right. Um, yeah, some fairs are really weird about that. And some I think rightly so because they've had some bad experiences with it or whatever. Some fairs, a lot of patrons will bring in musical instruments and uh, they'll just play a little bit, and which a lot of fairs don't mind as long as you're not stepping on anyone else and you're not asking for tips. If you're trying to busk, that's a big no-no at almost every fair. So that is very common, very, very common. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes. I don't tend to advertise this fact too much, but my birthday was a few days ago, and generally, I have had some traumatic birthdays, dramatic and traumatic. So I generally avoid it. Not when I was young. My parents were great, and I always had good birthdays, but just, yeah, later, yeah, not always the best birthdays. So generally, I hide on my birthday. I avoid going out, and I just take it as a good vacation day, and I like it a lot. But everybody should have the birthday they want. If you want to just relax and have a day off, that should be your birthday. If you want to go out and party with a bunch of friends, that should be your birthday. I mean, that's the good thing about having at birthdays, you get to do what you want because that's what it's about. And at least in my mind. Woo. Well, I mean, like I said, I don't advertise it. Yeah. And thank you, everyone. Yeah. I appreciate that. Believe it or not, I am fairly un-American in the fact that I don't really like apple pie. I know. I'm not a huge pie person. The only pie I like, and which is barely a pie, is pumpkin pie. Any other pie, never been a fan. I don't know. It's just something about it. I'm really weird that way. You're not wrong, Kurt. You're not wrong. But I just, yeah, it's just habit to kind of hide and cover up on my birthday just to avoid problems. Oh, that's an interesting idea. Yeah, actually, hey, everybody, share. How do y'all celebrate your birthday? I mean, do you have a special thing you do, like a tradition that you do for your birthday? My tradition is to just completely ignore it. My close friends know just to not even mention it. It's just been a known thing for years. Yeah. If they do mention it, it's very brief, quick, and that's it. But they try to avoid even saying that. What about you? Do you have your own birthday traditions? Because I mean, we've on the stream we've talked about a lot of traditions for holidays, such as everything from Columbus Day, which is historically a little sketchy, to to Christmas and well, I mean, a little bit of everything. Every holiday we've talked about on some form or another. I know, right? Yeah. Never let it be said I don't follow my own path. I don't always go. I usually don't go with the flow. I mean, it's like, no, this is how I prefer it, so this is what I'm going to do. That's usually been my approach. Oh, beach day. See, now that's not bad. I mean, once again, you just kind of do a day of something you want to do. I think that's a great way to do it. And nothing special. I mean, sometimes just having a relaxed day of no stress is I totally get that. See, yeah, same with me. So we relate there. Oh, okay. So it's just one of those, what special food would you want to eat since you don't get it much of the year? That makes sense. My mom always would do that. She would always say, oh, do you want anything special for your birthday, food-wise? That was always a big thing. So I guess I guess that makes sense. I just never really thought about it. Oh wow. Okay. That's hmm. Oh, that's so momentous occasions is how you associate it. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. So it's just considered another another retirement day. I appreciate that. See, and what he should have done was just bargained for a half day. So, you go in early and then at lunch you just take off and take a long lunch and relax or do something like that. You can always work it. Sure. Yeah, definitely still write music. I'm working on a song now that this bunch of goobers here on the stream recommended a few weeks ago, and now I've been steadily working on it, doing uh, I've been working on the. Somebody mentioned doing a song that was like the Animaniacs "Country's the World," but with a list of every single Ren Fair in it. And I just thought, oh my gosh, that's exactly something I would do. So I've been working on it, believe it or not. I've been compiling a list. Luckily, I have kind of a list of every Ren Fair, but I've been trying to weed it down where I have rules where every Ren Fair, it has to be around for at least 5 years to work on the list. Otherwise, fairs come and go after a couple of years. So it has to be an established fair. And then I had to pick out a tune, and I'm kind of going with the red-haired boy, also known as Beggar Man. That one. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been working on right now, anyway. But that it's such an involved song. It's not something you can do in an afternoon. I mean, it's the research. Probably writing the song out will be a day, but just getting all the information I need and organized to do that is taking a few weeks here and there, and that's what I've been working on. Okay, the classic cake for each player at our weekly game. That makes sense. And German brown chocolate cake. Yeah, everybody has their favorite cake. That is true. I know, right? Right. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But I think it's one of those where there's going to be. I mean, I don't. There are shows it's not going to be appropriate. Like doing Gen Con, it's not going to make much sense. Or Dragon Con, conventions, not so much. I mean, only fairs, and then only. It's not something you want to do every show. That's something you break out now and then just for that special song. I know people are. It might catch on, and people might request it a lot, depending on how good it turns out. But I think it's going to be one of those nice special songs. Yeah, I know. I'm vicious that way. Oh, okay. Don't like cake. Interesting. I mean that's fine. I honestly I've never been much of a cake person either. Ice cream, ooh, that's always dangerous for me because ice cream, it's hard for me to say no. I'm doing strict diet stuff now this year. I'm trying to really be good and get in good Ren Fair weight. But yeah, it's ice cream is if I there's one dessert I really liked, it was ice cream. Cake, I was always hit or miss. So much so that for some birthdays when I was growing up, my mom would get one of those cookie cakes that were so popular for a while when I was a kid. The big chocolate chip cookie things, and I'd be like, "Oh, I prefer this." I mean, I think she thought it was kind of weird, but she humored me because that's what parents are supposed to do. Yes, yes. I think it'll be interesting. Oh yeah, yeah. Katsurita, you don't like cake too, so yeah, that's. I don't think we're alone in that. I think it's more common than people think. It's just people are expected to eat cake for birthdays and holidays sometimes, and I think it's one of those things where people usually suck it up and eat a little bit of cake but don't finish it, and those are usually the people that don't actually like cake. They're just being polite, and it happens too often where I think people you have to get used to eating cake even if it's not your favorite. I don't hate cake. It's not that I don't really like it. It's that it's not something I really necessarily long for either. I'm kind of neutral about it is how I'd phrase it. So it's probably a little easier for me than it is for some people. So I can suck it up and eat a little bit if I want, if I need to. But yeah, it's definitely not one of my big things. Ice cream cake, yeah, that would be that's yeah. For me, I'd look at that and I'd be like, oh, that's great. Just more ice cream, less cake. Uh, I'm so sorry. I know I'm a bad influence. It's the truth. It is. Yeah, and if it's a texture thing, that's rough because then you can't really you can't handle it. Gotcha. Yeah, and I totally I've known several people who said the exact same thing, Greg. So yeah, I totally get you. It's an interesting dynamic, yeah, that I people tend to prefer one or the other. But I mean that's why we have so many desserts. We have options. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And I've given up ice cream this year. I have not had any ice cream this year. And there's an Amy's ice cream. I mean, they make their own ice cream, so it's a great ice cream place in Texas, in the Austin area. And there's one like within walking distance of my house. It's horrible. It's horrible. But yeah, birthday bacon. That's interesting. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I do remember that. Yeah, low carb. That's actually it's not a low carb diet. I'm pretty much trying to do a low sugar diet is how I'm approaching it. Um, I mean, I know carbs not too far removed, but I mean, we tend to go crazy with sugar in our society. So I'm trying to go very low sugar. That's my approach. Oh yeah, we can totally go to Amy's. I'm just not going to eat anything. Actually, the Amy's near me also has one thing they tried. They had this restaurant that Amy's tried, a burger place that Phil's Ice House. That I think still have two of them. It wasn't as successful as they hoped. I think part of it was the timing, but it has one right next to it, so you can get ice cream. I'll get food, and we're good, no problem. Yeah, I know. We're still talking about birthdays, and there's actually more fairs than normal, so it's going to be a longer fair list. Uh, yeah, 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 yeah. So I should probably move on. We're talking about this too much. This is all me. Okay. So I should talk a little bit about Sherwood and how it was. I mean, I'll sum this up a bit because Sherwood. This was the 15th season of Sherwood, the 15th year, and that's a pretty momentous occasion for a Ren Fair. It really is. Once you get past 10 years, you kind of have an idea of if this fair is going to be successful or if it's in the downward trend. And of course, they kind of hit the 10-year mark around when COVID started. So uh, we weren't really sure at first, but it was still very, very, very good. I mean, they have done so well. I I can't really think of a fair who has done better in such a short time than Sherwood has. Um, right now, in the 15th year, we had several 16,000 patron days and a lot of record days. And it was pretty crazy. That's there aren't many fairs that really pull that these days. There are some, sure, but it's not that common. So it really starts putting Sherwood into a different league now. I mean, very quickly. They're kind of at first I used to say, well, they're a medium-sized fair now, but with numbers like that, they're starting to get into the large fair category, and it's really impressive. It really is. Um, yeah, I know, I know. It's like that. Yeah, I mean Sherwood. It is a nice fair. I was just talking with Alicia about how shaded it is and how it I didn't even put sunscreen on some of the days because I knew that I had all my stages were covered, and it would be very rare for me to even have the sun hit me directly. So yeah, I mean, there were days I did, depending on what stages I had and what times, but for the most part, I didn't have to. And there aren't many fairs I do that with, but it was very nice. It was very nice. Yeah, I mean, I it's been interesting to watch how Sherwood changed because it used to be February and March is when Sherwood took place because I didn't want to compete with Scarborough. And the weather in February was so rough for several years in a row. So they decided to move the fair from March, April to April, May. I'm sorry, hold on. From February, March to March, April. And it really changed everything. So when they did that, ever since they did that, the weather in March and April has been, for the most part, stellar. Very few rain days. We have had a few, but over the years, but not many. And most of the weekends have been great. So much so that I think the vendors, have, for the most part, have been very happy. And I don't think anybody can really say that they made the wrong choice in moving, even though they were conflicting a few weeks with Scarborough. Yeah, I mean, it really is interesting. I'm kind of wondering what the future of the clans are going to be over there. I mean, and for those of you that don't know, they have a lot of groups of patrons, and they are just groups, sometimes 20 or 30, sometimes 100 plus of patrons that all get together and camp out there, have their own campsites that they maintain throughout the year, and they do. I mean, they all hang out together, and it's just one large group, and they call them clans. And it is kind of like Scottish clans, and it's really interesting. Early on, that support group helped out Sherwood a lot, kept it from being a very low attendance fair. Because the first few years of a fair, sometimes you get a couple of hundred people in the gate. You hope to get 1,000, and you don't always get it. So it can be rough those first few years, but because they had these several hundred people that were there every weekend at the beginning, they never really had to deal with that. They always had a steady base for the first several years, first decade. They were pretty solid, and they really helped make that happen. And they also made camping all the more good. But it's really, now that they've hit a point where they don't really need that anymore. It's not necessarily a big part of supporting the fair, but I hope that the fair continues to support those groups, because I know some of the other fairs around have kind of turned their back on some of those groups. So I hope that's not the case there. So yeah, but it was really, yeah, you're right. I really think it is. It is one of the biggest draws for Sherwood, because there are some fairs that offer good camping, but not as many as you'd expect. Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. Yeah, Sherwood really does it right. I think they've done a good job of the management and the different groups working and coordinating together. So that's been really good. Now, Sherwood, I think we're at a point where we can kind of look at Sherwood as one of the 3 big fairs in Texas. Actually, here, I think I put something together. For you that don't know what the Texas Triangle is, let's see if I can bring this up, maybe. Here we go. Yeah, so you go. There you go, the Texas Triangle. And the Texas Triangle is this concept where they have this triangle of kind of 5 cities. You know, you have Dallas-Fort Worth at the top, Houston in the lower right, and then on the lower left, you have Austin and San Antonio. And those 5 cities in that triangle, that's kind of made up by 3 different interstates, I-10, I-35, and I-45. Those 5 cities make up, well, a majority of the state's population. And by majority, I mean a huge majority. Over 70% of the population is in that triangle for Texas, and that's huge. Now, 4 of those cities, even if you separate Dallas and Fort Worth, which most people in Texas don't, we call it DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth. But even if you separate those cities, 4 of the 5 cities are 4 of the top 10 cities by population in the United States. So it's kind of a big deal. So when you think about that, think about where the fairs are, those 3 fairs, Scarborough Fair, Texas Renaissance Festival, and Sherwood. So let me put those up real quick. There you go. And you can kind of see Scarby at the top, TRF, Texas Renaissance Festival, down the lower right, and then Sherwood, a little more central, but a little east of Austin. So, yeah, I know. Well, I mean, DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth, is kind of, I mean, they're 2 cities together. And San Antonio makes the lower left, but then Austin, it kind of goes right through Austin, too. So that's why, yeah, that's why they kind of put that all on there. But you're not wrong. It is, 5-sided triangle. Well, leave it to Texas to come up with that for sure. But anyway, I just thought this was interesting, and I know we're running out of time here. So yeah, let me just jump over. I just found that really interesting and thought that was kind of cool. So yeah, definitely Sherwood has really come into their own, and I think it's putting them on that list of the 3 big Texas fairs is very fitting and right. They've really made some headway. I'm not saying they're larger than Scarborough or the Texas Renaissance Festival, but they're on the list. So, yeah, it is really good. Yeah, okay. Thank you for holding your tongue, Alicia. All right. Okay. So, yeah, anyway. That's my kind of take on it, how everything is with Sherwood. I'm very happy with it. It was a great year. I learned a lot. I think I really started to kind of try a few new things with my shows for the last few weekends. And by the last weekend, I really think I got it to work. I really had the flow right, and I'm pretty happy. So I'm going to try that a little bit more in Jersey, because in a few weeks I'm going to be heading to the New Jersey Fair and see if I can translate that to other fairs. So yeah, there you go. Well, let's go ahead and jump at the fair map over here. And you can see there's definitely some more fairs than before. It's that time of year, and at the end of April and May, and you start getting a lot of fairs now. And it'll drop off a little in the summer, but yeah, this is prime fair time. So that definitely something to check out. So let's jump to the full list here. And yeah, here we go. Excellent. Let's go ahead and yeah, here we go. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I like that. Okay. So laser pointer is ready. And so starting over here on the East Coast, we have the May Day Ferry Festival. This is in Essex, Maryland, and it's May 4th to 5th, just one weekend, with the theme being elements of magic and just a fairy festival. Always interesting because they tend to cater more towards kids, but it definitely I'd put it as in the fantasy fair realm, but still kind of nice. Then jumping up over to Michigan, up here we have in Marshall, Michigan, the Viking Warrior Fest, also called Steps of Valhalla. Now this one's an interesting one. I almost didn't put it up here because it's one weekend, May 4th to 5th. But on their website, it seems almost more like a pagan festival than a Viking festival. They are pushing the whole pagan route, as we wanted to create a fair that was a safe place for pagans to congregate and be. So I was kind of like, that's... So it's more about paganism first, history second. So I'm not sure. I'm kind of on the fence about whether that should be included. But for now, it is. So just to let you know. Jumping down to the Southern Indiana Renaissance Fair in Charleston, Indiana. That is the second out of 5 weekends, and their theme is Fantasy Underworld. So interesting. Then jumping down to the Tennessee Renaissance Festival in Arrington, Tennessee. This is the first out of 4 weekends, and the theme for the first is Viking Victory. So always a lot of Viking stuff going on. Jumping down to Georgia, we have the Livonia Renaissance Festival in Livonia, Georgia, just 1 weekend. Their theme is Pirates and Mermaids, so interesting for 1 weekend. Then the Georgia Renaissance Festival in Fairburn, Georgia. This is their 4th out of 8 weekends, and it is time travelers and cosplay. Then going over to Missouri, we have the Central Missouri Renaissance Festival in Kingdom City, Missouri. This is their 2nd weekend out of 2, so their last weekend. Going down to Oklahoma, we have the Oklahoma Renaissance Festival in Muskogee, Oklahoma. And that is their 2nd out of 6 weekends. Wow, 6 weekends. I still can't get used to that. I remember when it was just 4. So, again, another fair that's come a long way. So interesting. Then jumping down to the Avalon Fair in Kilgore, Texas. This is their last weekend, 5 out of 5 weekends. So, yeah, that is in Kilgore. Let's scroll down. This is a long list. Then jumping over to, here we go, to the Scarborough Renaissance Festival. This is the 5th weekend out of 8. Now, for those of you hoping, Alicia's not going to be there this weekend coming up, but she will be there the weekends after that. So, just plan your weekends accordingly. But the theme for this weekend is Live the Fantasy Spring Celebration. Then going down in West Texas, we have the Ren Fair of Bandera County. And this one's, they've been out since, this is I think their 5th year. And yeah, 1 day actually, May the 4th. And because it fell on May the 4th, they're pushing the cosplay thing. They're calling it an epic crossover of old, new, and from a galaxy far away. And all of their advertisement is more Star Wars based because it's May the 4th. So yeah, I was it's been a Ren Fair for several years before and themed that way. They're just kind of leaning heavily into the Star Wars thing. But for now, I'm including it. So we'll try to be understanding for the 1 year and see where it is after that. Then jumping up to Carnation, Washington, we have the Camlin Festival for May, and it's just 1 weekend. And then going down to California, so many fairs in California. We have the High Desert Pirate Fair in Hesperia, California. This is their last weekend, the 3rd out of 3 weekends. And close to that, we have the Renaissance Pleasure Fair in Irwindale, California. And that is their 5th out of 7 weekends. And then last but not least, the Escondido Renaissance Fair, their spring edition, in Escondido, California. And this is their last weekend, 3rd out of 3 weekends. So there you go. Your fair list for the week. Woo! Okay. Made it. Wasn't sure there for a second. See, it's not too late. It's only 7:35. I did all right, considering. I didn't cut much out of my show. Okay, actually, I cut out a lot, but we got talking about birthdays. I'm sorry. It happens. Yeah, you're right. You're right. What is a Ren Fair? And that is kind of the question we're going to have to answer. I kind of take it on a case-by-case basis, but sometimes it's tough to say. It really is. Because it's one of those where I think if the history is first, then I consider it works with the theme. But if it's not, and they have a different agenda first, and they just happen to theme it that way, I'm a little more hesitant to do it. But yeah, we'll see. I've been doing it on a case-by-case basis, but I think I've done it enough now that we can start coming up with some steadfast rules. And Alicia and I are going to talk a little bit about that. Yeah, I've heard good things about the Central Missouri one too. Yeah, I know some people who do it, and it's yeah, that it seems like it's a pretty good one. Oh yeah, sorry, Jan. Yeah, that's uh, yeah. I just found out that Glacier wasn't going to be there myself, so I didn't know beforehand. Oh, okay. The Spring Awakening Festival. Okay, Nordenfolk. They yeah, they were mostly at the I think the Trip to Jerusalem pub, and did a good job over there. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. What'd you say? No, sorry. Oh, really? That's cool. Yeah, they are a yeah, that's I know some of the people who started that fair, and yeah, it's been I've always heard good things about it. I don't think I've heard anything negative about it before. Um, so that's always a good sign. Well said. Um, yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, I think Renaissance fairs became a marketing ploy that some marketers have kind of worked with. They have an event and they want to get more people, so they look at it as a way to theme the event to try to get more people to the event, when that's not really the purpose of the event per se. And that's the problem I'm having, trying to come up with what's the purpose of the event. Is it to have an event and make money and have a theme that might get people, or is it about the history? So I don't know. I hate being too elitist about this. It's always a big question. It always is. But I just do my best. And really, a lot of this is I do the list so that y'all will know, and that you get recommendations for fairs that I think you might be interested in. So at least based on the fact that I would be interested in them. So some of these I am going to follow up with and see what they do in future years, and if try to read more reviews on them and see if I can find out more and whether they should be taken off the list or not. Because I don't want to be one of those lists that just puts everything on there I can. I want it to have a little quality control, so to speak. So anyway, well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the thing. I mean, that's why I put like some offshoots, like Viking festivals and fairy festivals and medieval festivals, and yeah. I mean, there's medieval and Renaissance covers a pretty long range. I mean, you're really talking about a good over 1,000 years of time period wise. So there's a lot that fits in there. Fantasy festivals, because of the way Arthurian legend kind of plays into it, and even Sherwood, which is very strong with Robin Hood, which is, well, I mean, very much more a fictional character historically. But yeah, I mean, it's really they really lean into it heavily and make it more historical, even though it's not. It's often not. So I get it though, because the medieval time period, a lot is stories and fantasy. So I totally get it, and I don't mind leaning into that a little bit. But it's I don't know. Some of it's based on precedent. Some of it's based on personal opinion. We'll see. Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, I mean it's uh, yeah, it's one of those tough questions. And here we go. Okay. I'm not touching that one. I'm just yeah, I'm just taking the hands, not even going there. Yeah. we're just gonna call it there. So it's 7:40. We'll call the show there. I feel like I just went did a Santa Claus thing. I didn't mean to. That is actually a really good way to phrase it. I like that. Fair, accurate, and fair expected. And you're not wrong. But at the same time, I think I think there should be a balance of some kind. And like having rock music at a fair, at a Renaissance fair, doesn't make much sense to me. It never has. Like, why are you playing rock music, drum kit, and doing the whole thing at a Renaissance fair? Can you just not get another gig? I don't understand. It's a weird concept. It really seems counterintuitive. I mean, at that point, why not just have a jazz band, or a blues group? I mean, I don't really see much difference, theme wise, and it's just. Yeah, it's strange. It's really strange. No, I mean, not exactly. Not really. I mean, but it did evolve from Renaissance instruments. And that's kind of what we're talking about. So, yeah, I mean, there's certain evolution, but at least it's not it's not too very far removed. Musical instrument history? Okay, that might work. Yeah, that's the common thing that, what if I won the lottery, I would make this fair and do it this way. That's always, yeah. Yeah, the lute is one example. Other instruments too, believe it or not. Yeah, and they at least do an interesting approach. I mean, there's at least they keep one foot in the door, kind of thing. It's kind of like, okay, we're rock, but we're using traditional instruments, so they at least have something going for it. Yeah, I mean, it's different, and they're pushing it, but like you're right. I mean, with the traditional instruments, they keep the foot in. And I think that's an interesting approach. Yeah, it's kind of like bardcore. I mean, just doing modern type stuff, but in a traditional way. I can kind of be like, okay, I see where you're going with this. Yeah, that's always the tough part, figuring out sound and making that work. Never easy. But anyway, yeah, we can keep talking about this for ever, and it wouldn't be hard. Which is hard for me because I'm not much of a talker. And I'm going to go ahead and end the show before Alicia responds to that statement. So, thanks very much. Have a good week. And yeah, I will let me know what fairs you're going to and how you like them. And I will see you next Monday. And since I'm fully conscious and not hoarse, I shouldn't have a problem with a show next Monday. So expect to be there, and I expect to see you. So have a good time, a good week, and as always, a fair life. Take care.